I'm rejoining the Tyne Valley line, which follows the river through rolling Northumberland countryside. The railway also traces the course of the mighty Hadrian's Wall. The 73-mile-long barrier was built from coast to coast to defend the northern frontier of the Roman Empire. Barden Mill, where I alight, is the gateway to the Northumberland National Park and some of the richest Roman archaeological sites to be found in Britain. The Romans' subjugation of Britain took decades and penetrated deep into modern-day Scotland. But from around the end of the 1st century AD, they consolidated south of a line between the Solway Firth and the River Tyne. And Scotland and a chunk of modern Northumbria were left to their own devices. Here at Vindolanda, they built a substantial fortress, years before Hadrian raised his wall. And Roman recruits from around the empire tackled life at its northernmost extreme. The Romans established a fort at Vindolanda in around AD 85. It remained in use for over 400 years, until the end of Roman rule in Britain. Excitingly, Vindolanda is a live archaeological site. Excavations take place every spring and summer, revealing valuable new finds. I last visited Vindolanda in 2012, and I can see that more of the site has been uncovered since then. Andrew Burley is the Director of Excavations. Andrew, how good to see you. It's great to be back.
Nice to see you, Michael. Welcome back to Vindolanda. You're looking very well, sir.
Now, you are actually an archaeological dynasty, you Burleys, aren't you?
Well, that's very kind of you to say so, rather than dinosaur, yes. So, yeah, I'm the 3rd generation of archaeologists working on this site. We've served here as a family far longer than any of the Roman soldiers who were here before us. And in a few years' time, we'll have been involved in exploring this place for almost 100 years.
Andrew, in the years after the Romans first built Vindolanda, what kind of people are living here?
We've got a very diverse set of different communities coming from all walks of life, different parts of the empire. We've got Batavians from Holland, Tungrians from Belgium, North Africans from Libya. Of course, we have a few Italians as well. It's an incredible mix. Oh, Spanish cavalry. I mean, literally, it's like the whole world as they knew it, focusing down in one spot.
And do we know what they thought of life in these northern climes?
Well, we know they had a pretty dim view of the local population because they invent a word for us. They give us our first rude word for the British. They call us Britunculi, nasty little Britons. So that gives you a little bit of a flavour. But, I mean, the Belgians and the Dutch, they'd be quite used to the weather. It wouldn't be too bad.
I was here about 10 years ago, and it has changed such a lot. Tell me what's been going on here.
Well, we haven't been idle, that's for sure. We've been working hard, and every year excavating the site, we've explored more of it. We've got about 50% more of the fort on show. Some of the discoveries we've made, temples to Jupiter Canis, the earliest surviving boxing gloves from Roman Britain, more writing tablets, and of course thousands upon thousands of women and children's boots and shoes.
Tell me about the written artifacts that you discovered.
So we have a couple of thousand documents, little postcards made of wood, covered in ink handwriting, and they're sort of windows into the souls of the people who are writing the letters, just like letters and emails are today. And because of that, they talk about, well, really mundane stuff. Everything from, I'm sending you a package, and in the package there's 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of shoes, and 2 sets of underpants, which is great. The first mention of underpants in Britain. What it does is it brings the ruins alive, because you're listening to their voices when you're reading their letters.
Many of the Vindolanda writing tablets and other artifacts on display in the museum were discovered not by professional archaeologists, but by volunteer excavators, many of whom had not been on a dig before. Since the 1970s, over 8,000 people have taken up the challenge, and I'm joining this year's intake.
Come on through this way, Michael.
Well, ready for action, Andrew.
Fantastic. We've got some basic kit in here for you. So you've got a brush, which you're going to need to clean off Roman masonry and stones. A trowel, vital piece of equipment. No archaeologist worth the salt is without a trowel. Some kneeling pads to protect your knees, and some gloves.
Would it be okay if I get down amongst the volunteers?
Absolutely. Let's bring you in.
Find out what they're up to.
Come along. Introduces the ladies.
Hello.
This is Catherine, this is Anthea, this is Michael.
May I join your dig?
You may. Oh, yes.
Catherine, are you a professional archaeologist?
Absolutely not. This is only my second week ever of excavating.
What's made you turn to it?
So we came as visitors to Vindolanda and we were so wowed by the place and read that you can come as a volunteer. We thought we couldn't think of a better way to spend 2 weeks.
What satisfaction are you getting from it?
I find it really cathartic, actually, but like sewing or painting or gardening. It's that sort of slow, peaceful activity where there's sort of attention at the sort of small detail, but also at the big detail. I think it's very good for you.
Anthea, are you surprised to find yourself on your knees in an archaeological dig?
If you'd have asked me that 20 years ago, I'd have said yes. But I came here 20 years ago and I'm just hooked now. I would describe myself as a veteran.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're well and truly hooked. You must have made some discoveries in that time.
Yes, I found writing tablets, which are just amazing. One of the boxing gloves that came out.
Do you find it hard to get to sleep that night? You're so excited, you're so buzzing with what you've found.
Yes, and excited for the next day to think that something else could be down there just waiting.
I mean, you regularly find bits of pot and bits of bone and nails. This is one of the biggest pieces. This is some amphora, which was made in France. I guess that would have been quite a large pot. Don't know what it would have had in it, olive oil or something.
Let's hope wine.
And maybe wine.
This is great. So actually, morale is maintained because all the time something or other is popping out of the ground.
Yeah.
That's lovely. How much of this site is there to do, Andrew?
Well, we reckon we've excavated about 20% in just over 50 years, so there's a lot to do.
Do you think we can discover so much more about the Romans and indeed about the Britons that it's worth going on and on?
I do. The greatest discoveries on Hadrian's Wall have yet to be made, simply because at the moment, like we're doing here, we're just scratching the surface.
On this part of my journey, I've had good reason to praise volunteers. They save human lives and care for seals at Tynemouth. And at Vindolanda, they dig for Northumbrian history. Today, Scots and English tease each other about Hadrian's Wall, humorously recalling ancient times when we had to be kept separate. But in truth, walls have not faded into history. Today, when one comes down somewhere in the world, another goes up. And Hadrian's Great Barrier makes me think how sad walls are. They are monuments to political failure. They are primitive last resorts to keep people apart. Next time... My goodness, Maria.